This lesson's on indenting. Now, your margins are out here, and when you type, you can only go right up to the margin. I'm going to change your view for a couple of reasons. So I'm clicking on view here, and I'm going to ask for ruler. And now we're able to see where our text should stop. And we can tell that when we get to the end, it wraps around. So it stops right where this indentation marker is and where these are up here. Now I'm going to explain these shortly. There are several ways of indenting your text, and you can tell whether something's been indented or not by looking at these markers. This very top marker is your top line or your first line marker. So the first line of a paragraph can be indented independent of the others. So if I take that little marker and indent it half an inch, the first line only comes in half an inch. So that's what that marker is for. The one on the bottom indents the entire paragraph. So if I take the bottom one, it takes all of those three little markers and indents everything from the left. The one on the right also takes everything, however, it takes it from the right and brings it in. So I've just indented this paragraph 1 inch from the left and 1 inch from the right, which is very common. And oftentimes when you see people do that, they'll also make a paragraph justified. That way this stands out. You can do that with a quote. You can do that all kinds of things. You see that in magazines quite a bit. So that's one way of indenting your paragraph. Another way of indenting a paragraph, okay, would be to simply go to the paragraph area here, click on this little arrow, and you'll get this old standard box where you have the ability to do the same as what we just did. The left indent refers to this bottom little box here. So whatever, if I say 1 here, it'll be the same thing as this. Right is the same thing as this over here. So if I set it here, these will change. So if I set this, I'll set it just to like 0.5, and I'll set the other one to 0.5. And if I hit OK here, you'll see that they're both indented half an inch. Now back to that menu. If I bring them back to 0, I also have the ability to do the first line indent only. Same way I did with just a triangle. So you might be thinking, well, the triangle is a lot easier. Actually, it is. It's easier, it's faster. If you know what you're doing, it's great. Okay? So this just gives you those options. But when you're here, you've got a few other options. We learned in a prior lesson about line spacing. So you've also got all your line spacing options here. So you can get both jobs done at the same time if you wanted to. The last type of indent that I want to talk about, it's called a hanging indent. And this one's a little different. We use them in resumes, that kind of thing. So I have a situation here where I have a bit of a title, but I want everything else to be to the right of my title. So I would ask for what's called a hanging indent. So I'm going to do all three of these paragraphs at the same time. And that's the second one here that I never talked about. So this is the first line. The bottom is every line. The one in the middle is called hanging. And if I use a hanging indent, this is what I get. In other words, the first line stays all the way to the end, but every other line is indented in. And here we put a tab in each of these. That way it separates whatever this word happens to be, it separates it from the pack. So we set the tab at 1 inch, okay, by doing it this way. So now it's all tabbed over there. And if I turn off my show hide, it gives you a neat little look. People use this for resumes, that kind of thing. So those are the three different types of indent. You got the first line, you got the hanging, and you got the entire indentation here. If you simply want to take an entire paragraph and indent it from the left, there's a button to do that. You can do this right here and just say increase the indent, and it just brought it, the whole thing, to the left by 1. If I do it again, it brings it over again by 1, or I can bring it back this way by 1. So that's a fast, quick, easy way to indent an entire paragraph, but it only does it from the left.